Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Palm Springs Unified School District regular board meeting as of February 22nd, 2022. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Let's see, our student board member Christopher Vega is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and when we're done, would you please remain standing?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing for a moment of silence? We'd like to take this time to have a moment of silence for Robert Andrade and Rod Calderon. Robert Andrade was a graphic arts teacher at Palm Springs High School who started with Palm Springs Unified School District on August 31st, 1971. With the help of his students, Mr. Andrade processed large print jobs for the district, such as student handbooks, award programs, promotional certificates, and banquet flyers. He retired after 29 years in the year 2000. Mr. Rod Calderon was a current employee who dedicated 22 years of service as an electrician to Palm Springs Unified School District. Thank you very much. I think I'm getting old. I think we need to have a roll call.
Member Espericueta?
Here.
Member Cornett?
Here.
Member Jarrell?
Here.
Member Girardi?
Here.
Student Board Member Stephanie Romero?
Here.
And Student Board Member Christopher Vega?
Here.
And Board Member Tim Wood is absent today.
Thank you. Now we'll have our mission statement read by Student Board Member Stephanie Romero.
All members of Palm Springs Unified School District are united in our commitment to equity. We create deep, meaningful learning opportunities, build professionalism, and engage parents and community to ensure success for all students. All students graduate with the skills, capacities, and confidence needed to succeed in a rapidly changing world.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Item 7 is report of closed session items. Do we have anything to report this evening, Clerk Jarrell?
President Girardi, there are no closed session items to report.
Thank you very much. Item 8 is approval of the agenda. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda with one modification of moving item 15A above 14, item 14?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Now it's time for our student board member reports. The student board member reports will be presented by Mount San Jacinto High School student board member Christopher Vega and Rancho Mirage High School student board member Stephanie Romero. First up, we have Christopher from Mount San Jacinto High School.
Hello, good afternoon, and this is my school board presentation for our school of MSJ. We just wanted to say is that we had 70 new students from the start of the semester, but we did have issues with COVID with many students testing positive. But as luckily we had many students recover from their absence, and we also had many students recover their grades, so there wasn't a huge problem with that. We had many students participate with our career fair on February 2nd. Each students from our school and from EWAC joined us to hear many presentations from many adults and to hear the careers and what kind of future we could also present for our students. We also had many seniors graduate and also for signing up to for the college program of COD. And as of today, we also have many students finishing up their FAFSA, so they could also join for our College of the Desert. As like I said, students are still finishing their applications for FAFSA, so hopefully we're able to finish that by today. We also like to announce that we're starting our soccer season. In addition, we had many students from boys and girls joining up, and today was their first game. And I'm not sure what was the score yet, but hopefully we won. So, in addition, we also have many students from esports playing the same games, but hopefully we have more games coming in, and also with other schools joining in and playing together as more of a team instead of just divided or individual teammates. And that's the end of my presentation. So thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, Christopher. Next up, from Rancho Mirage High School, we have Stephanie Romero.
For Rancho Mirage High School. Tonight we're going to be looking at our winter formal, our Valentine's Spirit Week, announcements, senior events, our sports, and Asb Campaigning. We had a very big venue. There was plenty of seating. There was plenty of food. Our students had a great time on the dance floor. We had a shortage of seniors there, however, because they had other big payments and they missed out. So. These were some of the students that had attended our dance. Everyone looked super nice and very formal. We had a photo booth as well, so students enjoyed taking pictures there. Now, heading into our Valentine's Spirit Week. With Monday being our Valentine's Day, we asked students to dress to impress as if they were going on a date. Tuesday was Anti-Love Day, dress like your ex. We had very interesting dressing attires. And our activity for lunchtime was finish the lyrics to a breakup song. This day we had a Marine's visit, so we didn't get too much participation in our activity. Wednesday was Berry Fuzzy Valentine. Students could bring a teddy bear or any fuzzy attire. It was a comfy day. Thursday was Twin Day. Our activity was Piece the Heart with an X. And Friday was class colors. Freshmen wore purple, juniors wore red, sophomores white, and seniors pink. This week we didn't get too much participation in our activities. We've had an increase in our school fights a little bit, so our school's working on that. Some announcements. Our senior packets payments were due February 4th. Our cap and gown orders are coming up due soon as well. Our senior class shirts have been ready to be picked up in the student store, and we had a senior parent graduation meeting last Thursday, February 17th. We also have our AP testing fees due soon. Our Marines visited February 15th, and they set up a pull-up bar, so students were showing off their muscles, and Marines were also signing kids up that were interested in the Marines. Our ASB program is working on a spring fling dance, just to get one last little dance in before the year ends. And we're planning to have a movie night, a school movie night, March 18th. We're planning to have another senior karaoke night on March 25th. We had one back in December, and it was nice. However, there was seniors that missed out on it, so they're gonna get another chance to join us. We had refreshments for them, and we will do that again. We have our prom fashion show in April. We senior students sign up to model on the runway during lunch, and it's really fun. We have our senior ditch day coming up, but I'm not supposed to tell you guys, so pretend I didn't say that. We have our prom April 30th, and we have powder puff and buff ball on May 20th. That's when the senior and juniors girls go against each other in a game of football. And we have our senior sunset barbecue May 25th. We have a lot of activities, bouncy houses, water balloons, anything for the seniors. And the next day we have our grad night, so we're gonna have some tired seniors. And graduation is June 1st. We had our boys basketball and girls water polo senior nights this past January. Our softball girls had their first game of the season last week, as well as our baseball boys. Our ASB campaigning just began today. We had our ASB posters put up, and students that submitted an application went through an interview process and through poster revision as well. They are not allowed to go against any other candidates, and they are not allowed to use bribery in the form of, cookies or candy or anything. No putting other opponents down. And that's all for tonight. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to contact me or have any questions, that's my personal email. Thank you.
Thank you both, Christopher and Stephanie. Boy, Stephanie, looking at your senior events coming up, I can't believe how quickly it's going to happen. Man, it's right around the corner. Well, thank you both very much. Very well done. Next up is item 10. We're going to have a presentation on the Lcap supplement and mid-year update for Palm Springs Unified School District and Sila Vista Charter. I believe Dr. Pfeffer is going to present this.
I just want to share that Dr. Pfeffer, who is our Director of Assessment and Data Analysis, is also serving as our Interim Director of State and Federal Programs at this time.
Well, good evening, everyone. I appreciate some of your time this evening. We're going to be going through a required element for the Lcap process this year. It's a one-time mid-year supplement that's been required of us as of AB 130, a bill passed earlier this year, due to additional funding that the district has received. And so as part of meeting those requirements, we present to you today a mid-year checkup, if you will, of where we are both in expenditures and in progress monitoring in our actions. We'll be going through the slides relatively quickly and succinctly. I encourage the board to pause and interject with any questions along the way. Happy to go ahead and touch base. The slide deck is not meant to be comprehensive. It's meant to be an overview. The supplemental materials posted to the board agenda and that the board received earlier is the more thorough piece, and we can reference any of those pieces today as well, if that would be of help to the board. So as a little bit of a background for this presentation, again, this is due to AB 130, meaning a requirement for us to basically do three things as part of this presentation. One is to go over the prompts and the review of the supplement for the annual update for the 21-22 Lcap. That's a portion of the Lcap that is put into place each year, summarizing the past year's events prior to moving forward to the new plan. Although we're not approving this part of the supplement today, it is approved as part of the full Lcap in June. So although currently we're going to review the information, please note that you'll be approving this as part of the full Lcap's annual update, and these pieces will be added into that document. Today, we also need to do a check-in on available mid-year outcome data related to metrics that are identified within the plan, as well as updates on some of our expenditure and implementation data. And we'll be touching on those over the course of the presentation. So a quick view of the budget update and the reason that we're here today. The Lcap adopted budget was done back in June. Shortly afterwards, the state revised their budgeting and the district received additional funds. And thank you to Peter Van Buskirk and our fiscal department. These are our reports as of interim one, the first interim report for the year, to give an idea as to where those extra funds lie. We're focused on the LCFF supplemental and concentration funds for this particular presentation, but note that there was a number of different additions made to both federal and state funding over the course of the year. And Sila Vista Charter received additional extra funding in a variety of different locations. Ms. Perez-Chica is here to answer any questions specific to Sila Vista, but we'll be spending most of our time going through the Palm Springs Unified section of the report today. So we'll start by going through the required prompts. There are 5 of them. We'll make each one relatively brief. The first prompt asks the district to go ahead and review how the funds that were not included would be used and how we've engaged our educational partners in that process throughout the year. So we're in the process of engaging our educational partners in a lot of input. We've also collected various pieces. Here are 4 of the various plans and funding structures that we've dedicated time to gather input from. If you'll note, there's a wide variety of different stakeholder groups in these meetings, including parent groups, community groups. This past week, I visited all of our comprehensive high schools and spoke with teams of students for our Lcap. And plus, we have our current survey window that's open. So although some of these items we've already collected input for, we are moving forward and collecting additional pieces of input along the way to finalize some of these expenditures in these plans. Prompt 2 speaks to how the LEA, how our district intends to use the additional funding to support students who qualify in the low-income English learners or foster youth categories, for especially any sites over 55%. Now, the intent here from the state is to differentiate how that funding is going to help increase and improve services for these groups where there are higher concentrations of these students. In Palm Springs Unified, all of our school sites are over 55%, and therefore we take a slightly different approach, prioritizing the highest level schools, working our way through the remainder of the district as it relates to some of our services. Some of the actions that we're looking to use that supplemental funding that came in post the Lcap plan are listed here. This is not a comprehensive, nor is it a final list. These are some items that we're seeing over the course of the year that would be of value to students in moving forward with academics, both reading and math intervention in this case, making sure that we continue to offer healthy and safe school environments with some extra nursing, and then also have some community engagement. Again, we're still collecting stakeholder input as it relates to the final list of expenditures on this, but this gives you an idea of where some of those funds are likely to head over the course of the plan development period. Prompt 3 asks us to briefly summarize the LEA's efforts to engage educational partners for the one-time funding pieces, specifically around the group of ESSER plans. And so what we've demonstrated here and shown for the purposes of this prompt is our ESSER 3 plan engagement process. This was held throughout the fall semester. You can see that there were surveys, community meetings, and a variety of advisory groups that were consulted on the use of these one-time funds in order to make sure that they would best be used for targeting learning gap reductions, making sure we're addressing those needs, as well as those healthy and safe school reopening and continue to open groups. We're taking, as you saw earlier, a similar approach with our remaining plan sets to what you've seen here with the ESSER 3 plan. The fourth prompt similarly then asks us about the ESSER 3 implementation. And quite frankly, we haven't expended much of these funds. Mr. Brashear, upon his passing, had left some initial notes regarding where he was heading for this plan that I was able to take and use. And a quote on the screen here is directly from those notes, stating that the district is focused on leveraging the combination of one-time and ongoing funding to effectively resource services targeting known needs and adapting to the changing context of the pandemic. I feel very strongly that Mr. Brashear's words here really resonate with the intent of the board, the intent of our district, and making sure that we are servicing the highest priority needs at all time, and we're not going to be pressured into rushing to use funds when we may have other funds that need to be expended earlier for those purposes. So as you'll note, we're still sitting with approximately 95% of our ESSER 3 funds still unexpended as of the end of January. Some of those funds have probably been dipped into at this point in the plan. But as of the time of this particular presentation writing, that's where we stood. Now, that being said, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, GEAR, some of the other one-time funding pieces have been fully expended, and now we'll be moving into this phase of the process as we continue to move forward. Noting some of the actions here listed on the ESSER 3 plan specifically, that those dollars will be lined up to be used for. If you'll note, many of these align with Lcap actions that are meant to support our district in full, and that's with very direct intent. We attempt to align those plans, which actually fit very well into the fifth prompt, asking us to specifically identify that mindset and stating how these special expenditures and these one-time funds would be spent in alignment. And really, the Lcap is the center of our planning from the educational services side of things. Wherever we have goals within the Lcap, we look to expand or extend upon them first, and then supplement those with goals as necessary, using these funds to make sure that unforeseen circumstances, such as pandemic-related health costs and some of those types of things, can be supported. So really thinking about the Lcap as the main hub for these supplemental plans has been a clear intentional piece to our process. Before I move to the metrics and expenditures update, I want to pause there just briefly to see if the board has any initial questions on the 5 prompts. Those will be the items that are actually entered into the annual update that you'll approve with the Lcap in June.
I just have a question on by what date does ESSER 3 funds have to be expended by? Is there a date?
I'll call upon Dr. Murray for some clarification, but I do know we have a little bit extra time on that one.
Yes, ESSER 3 have to be expended by the end of September in 2025.
So I think that intentionality in Mr. Brashear's quote really points that out. We have time to expend it. Let's make sure it's done so in the best and most proper way moving forward. When we're looking at the metrics and the expenditures moving forward, we're thinking of those in kind of a 3-bucket organization. When it comes to our metrics, there are some outcomes we already know they're in place because they may have been, for instance, a graduation rate at the end of last year. So that number is already known for moving into our new Lcap. We have some pieces that are in progress. Good examples of that are things like our current chronic absenteeism rate, our current performance on district interim testing, the STAR test, being able to see what our progress is towards moving those end goals. And some that we just don't know yet. A good example of that I'll be pointing out here momentarily is our parent input pieces, where we're in the middle of our survey window currently, and we don't have those results until that window is closed. Similarly, as it relates to expenditures, we see some of those pieces are also in place, where there may be some items that aren't fully started, say planned expenditures for intersession work in the second half of the school year, in progress expenditures where we're scaling those items up, and some expenditures that are already fully completed. So as we move forward through the portions regarding the metrics and the expenditures, we've organized those by goals just to make them aligned with our LCAP structure. And what I've done is I've highlighted just 3 or 4 of the different metrics. Again, in the supporting documents, you have the full list of metric updates and the full list of expenditures. But I'm just spotlighting a couple on the slide, and I will highlight 1 or 2 in our conversation. The pandemic clearly has had an effect on our academic outcomes. We're aware of that. We are seeing growth within our interim data across the board. However, there is still room to make up those learning gaps that we're seeing because of school closures, distance learning, et cetera. We're also seeing a need to help support graduation rate. However, one thing that is continuing to rise is our A through G completion, the UC-CSU rate, which we were just shy of 50% of last year, even with the pandemic for our graduates. So a clear indication that that's a forward-facing piece that we're continuing to build off of. I'll be back to you here shortly in the next few weeks with an A to G improvement plan that is part of another step being asked for by the state for us to be able to put into place to rise that number even higher. Expenditures within Goal 1 similarly are moving to different locations. I'll bring your attention to our multi-tiered system of support. Note that we have a very large LCAP budget in the initial budget of almost $6 million that focuses on interventions, focuses on supporting student learning, closing learning gaps, closing achievement gaps. Note that we've about halfway through that expenditure. At the halfway through point of the year, that would make sense to be about halfway through our intervention dollars, knowing that we still have the second half of the school year for during the day structures, as well as intercession during spring break and during the summer that's still going to be part of these expenditure packages. As we shift to Goal 2 and look at items related to family and community engagement, I bring your attention to one of our metrics, as I illustrated before, that we simply don't have an outcome for yet, and that would be that first item with our parent survey input. That window is currently open and continues through March the 4th. Those links are posted on our PSUSD website, and school sites have been sending those out to families. Last year, we had just shy of 3,000 surveys completed. As of this afternoon, we're sitting at 2,192, so we're right on pace to try to meet that same number from a year ago, which I'm pleased to say, with about 8 school days left at our parent survey window. So we'll continue to be motivating our sites to move forward with that. When it comes to some of the action spotlights, you can see that those expenditures there are pretty close. One that's a bit deceiving is that social worker line. We include encumbrances as part of the expenditure. So we have some encumbered dollars that are meant for hiring positions in the social worker field. One of the challenges in these pandemic times and as we exit out is some of the hiring of those types of positions. And quite frankly, we haven't filled all of those positions as of yet, something I know Dr. Sweezy has spoken to in board meetings previously. So we'll be working to continue to do that, but note that although that looks like a closer end expenditure, we will likely have some funds that shift out of that will be moving to other items for the last segment of the year, simply because we won't be paying a full year's salary out of some of those locations. Goal 3 is about the physically and emotionally safe learning environment. Similarly, we talk about engagement here, and an item that I'd like to bring to the board's attention is our chronic absenteeism rate. Currently, it is not a number that we would like to see within our district. It is an area of concern and an area of focus. Now, note that that's a semester 1 value. Remember that a student to be chronically absent has to miss 10% or more of their enrolled days, which means that percentage actually can come down rather quickly, even with health exclusions, if students continue to attend and accrue more enrollment days. The longer they're in, the less time some of that missed time counts as a percentage. So as we get to day 140 and 150, students that have missed 10, 12 days, possibly due to health exclusion or other reasons, may fall off that chronic absentee percentage. So we expect that number to improve. However, we do still see it as a major issue this year and something that needs to be addressed. Another example of one of those unknown variables, again, is that survey piece at the bottom there. Again, that's one of those that we're currently collecting due to be completed in March. Similarly, in Goal 3, when we talk about our action spotlights, I'll bring your attention to our supplemental counselors. We still have funds in that area that's going to allow for additional support structures. Most of the salary pieces have been taken care of there, but we do still have training and additional outreach that'll be happening in that area. So in closing, and then I'll pause again for questions, we have a continuing effects of the pandemic, continuing challenges as it relates to hiring, health and safety protocols. Although some of those systems are continuing to improve and evolve, we still have work to do in a lot of these pieces, and definitely with bridging those learning gaps as well. We do want to acknowledge the fact that the teachers and staff within the district have done a fantastic job working through these challenging times, even with constant change, and we appreciate their efforts and know that there's still much in the way of that to come. So at that time, I'm going to pause and see if the board has any questions regarding this update, which then again will get fully approved as part of the LCAP in June.
I just had one clarification I wanted to make. The funds for ESSER 3 actually have to be obligated by September 30th of 2024.
Okay.
But right now, funds, if they are obligated by that time, may be able to be used after that date.
Okay. Do we get any ADA for kids that have been out due to COVID? Is there any kind of a bill in the legislature or current or in the foreseeable future?
Not that I'm aware of to recoup those funds. From an accountability perspective, we've also had conversations and principals have been asking if the state is going to consider removing health exclusions from the chronic absenteeism calculation. We also haven't heard that, but we know that that's a rumor out there in the community. So as of right now, when it comes to accountability, and my understanding is funding, and please, Dr. Burry, interject if I'm saying something that is not correct, we've not heard of any changes from sort of status quo right now on those particular pieces.
Do we know how much that has affected our chronic absenteeism? Have we figured that into it?
Yeah, currently that number is heavily impacted. The chronic absentee rate is heavily impacted by health exclusions. Again, in part because we're only at day 120 or so of the school year. So again, some of those students will peel back off the longer that they're enrolled if they can continue to attend school and not be excluded due to exposure or those types of things. And some of our policy changes will help to mitigate some of that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Pfeffer, I think a few questions. We're going to be doing the state CASP, right? The state test?
Yes, the state test will be going off as normal in our district starting in mid-March, going through the end of May.
And so when we update the LCAP, it will be in 6 months after the CASP results or around that time?
No, the new LCAP will be approved in June, per requirements. The CASP results will be showing up in final form closer to August. So what we'll be doing is using some of our STAR data from our interim assessments to help look at the academic side of the house while we're waiting for those official state test scores to arrive.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have the question, Jim. We know that is the high needed or is a high number of students that need recovering assistance. The fund is enough fund to guarantee that any student or parent that requests support in that area is guaranteed that if many students request summer school or after school classes, or they have limits in how many students?
Yeah, that's a great question. Currently, our schools are offering a number of intervention classes to help support that and credit recovery efforts. I know we're offering some extensive summer school programming. Dr. Kovac, I don't know if you'd like to interject on that point.
Yes, we will be offering summer school, but the number of students that can participate is dependent on the number of teachers who are interested in teaching this summer.
Okay. Well,
Dr. Pfeffer did a great job explaining, so thank you.
okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There are no email comments or electronic comments that have been received.
Thank you. Do we have
We have one tonight. No answer.
And no, President, you are the, and since the translator need help there with it? The translator lady is asking for help.
It's not on. There you go. All right, so now we're going to go to board member comments. Sergio, do you have a comment? Go ahead.
I have a few comments. First, thank you, student board members, Member Vega and Member Romero, good presentation. And also, I want to thank Dr. Suisse and Erica for sending the letter to my employer to explain what is my duties in a board member, and that will help me a lot to continue to have a flexible schedule in my job. And this past week, I spent most of my days attending a service and funeral of one of my sisters that passed away in San Jose. And that was my San Valentin. But at the same time, I had the opportunity to meet with family from different areas, from Mexico, from another state. And I want to send a message to the Latino community to use the YouTube page in Spanish that the school district provide in every meeting when we have a good translator. I ask the community to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else tonight?
Good evening. I do want to thank our student board members, Stephanie and Christopher, for your excellent presentations. It was great to hear from our operational expectation number 10 and 13, and the revisions they will be discussed with the entire Board of Education before approving them. I just want to say again, thank you to our students, parents, and staff and community for their continued support for Palm Springs Unified School District and our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Madonna?
Hello, everyone. It's a joy to come back and see you all here, and I hope you stay the whole night. But congratulations to all the new people that are joining us in different capacities across the district. The Anti-Racism Coalition, the ARC, did a lot of work, and they came up with a wonderful equity statement for the district, and I'll just read part of it. That Palm Springs Unified is committed to an equitable, socially just, and anti-racist educational system. And they ended the statement with every student, every day. And this coalition has continued to pass the torch. Our superintendent mentioned that in the Equity Conference, and we are very proud to see Dr. Nicole Crawford and the team across the district continue to be proactive with our work in equity. I wrote a few notes, but what I really wanted you to know, it's working. In the increasing African American students in high school AP honors courses, we've seen an increase from 22.63% in our high schools to 34%. And that's an increase of 11.37%. I think we should give them a hand. We're starting to see the changes for our kids academically across the district. So they've done a lot of work, and we appreciate that. We also have seen new Teachers of the Year. 7 new teachers are coming forth, and hopefully we'll get to see one go forth and do really well at the county. We also in the district have a new program for, it's called LA84, Middle School Sports After School Basketball Program. It's free for kids. There's going to be busing, and that's going to be a wonderful way to connect kids to schools. They might not be involved in other activities, but sports and basketball is going to be there for them in middle school, and that's great. We also had a wonderful recruitment fair last week, and I thank Dr. Senior Ray and his team. There'll be a report tonight on Univision, I believe, and to see that our district is now in person, back recruiting teachers is wonderful, and we are very proud to have teachers join us here in Palm Springs Unified. So thank you.
All right, well, I think that was pretty comprehensive, so I don't have anything tonight. Dr. Sweezy, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, President Girardi. So welcome to our big audience tonight. As Member Jarrell said, I want to give a quick update on the public health numbers, which I've been doing at every board meeting. On February 8th, so our last board meeting, we were at 107.1 cases per 100,000 residents in Riverside County. And today, that number is at 37.9 per 100,000. And the positivity rate is down to 13.2%. So a very big decrease. We saw very high numbers in January, and I'm super happy to report all across Riverside County, we're seeing that very rapid decrease in the number of cases. Our current district dashboard shows 14 students and 8 staff members. Last Friday, before the 3-day weekend, we sent home test kits and masks with all of our students at the end of the day, with a note inside from me just suggesting you might want to consider doing this before returning after the 3-day weekend. I'm so proud of everyone in the district who worked so hard to make that happen. And I've been showing these off for now over like a week and a half. I've shown President Girardi 3 times. Our reprographics team, some warehouse members, and members of our risk management department got together in our nutrition services and used our packaging machines to package each of these individual masks and tests to go home with all students. And I just think that's a great example of the innovativeness and the cooperative spirit here in the district. So thank you to everyone who made that happen. We purchased them, packaged them, and distributed them, and that took a lot of work. And so thank you goes out to everyone who made that happen. Also this last week, just to share really quickly, we were visited by some kindness ninjas. So some kindness ninjas from Rio Vista Elementary School dropped off these beautiful kindness reminders to wear your smile every day, to be a buddy, to be unique, to be brave, to be polite, to be amazing, and to be kind. So I really appreciate our schools that are continuing to spread that message of positivity and kindness. As Clerk Jarrell mentioned, our ARC continues to work along with many other people in the district doing the equity work in Palm Springs Unified. And I'm very excited that the district will be contracting with Nicole Anderson, who's a very well-known consultant in the field of equity and culturally responsive teaching. So we're so happy to have her joining our team over the next few years as a consultant. We will be having our ARC meeting next week, and everyone in the district is welcome to attend that meeting. And we have a registration link that we've already sent out to all staff, and so we encourage you to join us for that meeting next week. Two more quick announcements. One, I know you already know this, but I'm a numbers nerd, so I can't let it go by. Today's 2/22/22, and so I know we had lots of our math teachers celebrating that, all happening on a Tuesday. And somebody else told me teaching second graders at 2 o'clock and 22 minutes. And so a big thank you to all of our teachers, our math teachers, and every single teacher that made today special, because that's a really, really unique day with today's date. And then finally, we've created a new email address, and it is from the Office of the Superintendent. So working with Joan Boyko, we've created that new email address to send out to the staff. So when you see an email from Office of the Superintendent, it's not spam. It's an important announcement that we want to make sure that you take a look at. I know there's a lot of talk in the community about indoor masking, and I just want to reassure everybody we are following the California Department of Public Health guidelines, which is keeping the indoor mask mandate for schools at least until February 28th. We're expecting an announcement on February 28th that will give us further direction on masks in schools. But for now, the rule in California is masks indoors at all of our schools. And so we are staying with that public health directive from the California Department of Public Health. However, we are expecting a significant change will be coming from them at the end of February. I don't know exactly what that is, but as soon as we do, we'll be sure to implement it. I believe we'll be looking at some loosening of that requirement, maybe turning it into a strong recommendation instead. But as soon as we have that guidance from public health, I'll bring that to the board, and of course we'll share it with our school community. So with that, I'm done, President.
Thank you very much, Mike. All right, so now we're moving up item 15A. 15A is approval of certificated and classified employee transactions. I believe Dr. Senior A is going to introduce them.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Very pleased to make three wonderful recommendations this evening. So first, if I could have Mrs. Salam Ramirez come on up. It gives me great pleasure to recommend to the board Mrs. Salam Ramirez as the new assistant principal for Palm Springs High School. Mrs. Ramirez earned her bachelor's degree and master's degree from Cal State San Bernardino. She started her career with Palm Springs Unified in 2005 as a teacher at James Workman Middle School. She was then a teacher at Palm Springs High from 2012 to 2014, then at Rancho Mirage High from 2014 to 2017, then promoted to assistant principal at Nellie Kaufman in 2017. Throughout her career, Mrs. Ramirez has demonstrated outstanding leadership skills, as noted by her current supervisor, Dr. Karen Dimmick, who said, "Salam is an incredibly skillful instructional leader who has made a lasting impact on our school culture. We are confident that Mrs. Ramirez will be an outstanding addition to the Palm Springs High School team." Congratulations, Mrs. Ramirez. Anything you'd like to say to the superintendent and board, and anybody you'd like to recognize this evening?
Just a little bit, thank you. Good evening. To the board, Dr. Squeezy, cabinet members, Mr. Ventura. Please know how honored I am to be appointed AP at Palm Springs High School, and how eager I am to serve this community in a new capacity. When I started working in this district about 20 years ago, I had no idea what direction my path would lead, but I knew even as a substitute teacher that this is a special district who values our students, their success and their well-being, and I needed to be part of it. Over the course of my time in PSUSD, I've worked with some incredible leaders. Some are here, actually. Teachers and other staff members who have a fierce passion for education and who inspire me to be better. I've grown and learned because of them, and I'm grateful to continue to do so. And thank you for this opportunity. And Dr. Dimick, it's because of your leadership that I feel comfortable doing this. So thank you. I was told to keep it brief, so I will, but first I need to thank my personal cheerleading squad, my husband, my kids, my sister and brother-in-law. You guys encourage me when I need it. You give me a swift kick when I need it. And thank you because you believe in me, and that makes me believe in me. So thank you very much. I'm super excited and looking forward to the next leg of this journey. Thank you.
Okay, next I'd like to have Mr. Steven Avina come on up. It also gives me great pleasure to recommend Mr. Steven Avina as the new athletic director for Palm Springs High School. Mr. Avina earned his bachelor's degree from UC Santa Barbara and his master's degree from the University of San Diego. Mr. Avina started his career in 2011 with the Desert Sands Unified School District before joining Palm Springs Unified in 2012 as a counselor at Palm Springs High School. During his career, Mr. Avina has served as the Palm Springs High lead counselor, site EL coordinator, and has coached both football and basketball. As a graduate of Palm Springs High, Mr. Avina is excited to continue his leadership career as the new athletic director for his alma mater. And as our board president pointed out, Mr. Avina did wear a tie that matches the colors of Palm Springs High, so he's starting off on the right step. So congratulations, Mr. Avina. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the board and the superintendent? Anybody you'd like to recognize this evening?
Yes, I want to say, Dr. Sweezy, thank you. Assistant Superintendents, thank you. Board, thank you. I want to first and foremost thank my wife, Nietzsche Avina, my daughter, number one, Lotus, AJ, and Uwats. It's an honor to return 20 years after being away and now able to serve my community. I also like to thank the O'Meara family, Erica, Dr. Julio, Mateo, Mr. Ventura. Look forward to serving with you. Mr. Hendra, thank you. And to the rest of everybody here, I look forward to serving with our teachers as well in my new capacity. Thank you.
Okay, next I'd like to have Mrs. Debbie Collier come on up. We are also very pleased to recommend Ms. Debbie Collier as the new assistant principal for CCE at Cathedral City Elementary. Ms. Collier earned her bachelor's degree and her master's degree from Azusa Pacific University. She started her career in education in 2003, teaching in both private and public schools before joining Palm Springs Unified in 2008. Ms. Collier has both elementary and middle school experience and has served in various leadership roles in our district. Currently, she is the Dean of Students for Painted Hills Middle School. Mr. Mark Acker, principal of I'll get this straight, I apologize. Painted Hills Middle School, states that Ms. Collier has the capacity to make deep connections with students and staff, which is a testament to her professionalism and passion for education. We are confident she will do an outstanding job in her new role. Congratulations, Ms. Collier. Anything you'd like to share with the superintendent and board and anybody you'd like to recognize this evening?
I just want to thank the cabinet and board for this opportunity. I just feel really blessed to work in this district. And so I thank you for investing and believing in me. And I'd like to thank my previous administrators and mentors for your support and helping to prepare me for this position. And I'd like to thank my friends that are here to support me tonight and my family that's watching online. So thank you very much. I look forward to joining CCE.
Thank you,
Dr. Signoret. So can I get a motion to approve the following employment agreements? First employment agreement with Steven Avina, Assistant Principal, Athletic Director Palm Springs High School, salary 215, column 1, step 1, effective 2/23/22. An employment agreement with Salam Ramirez, assistant principal, Palm Springs High School, salary schedule 215, column 1, step 11, effective date March 21st, 2022. And an employment agreement with Deborah Collier, assistant principal, Cathedral City Elementary School, salary schedule 202, column 2, step 21, effective date would be February 23rd, 2022.
Move for approval?
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. We wish you all much success. All right, now that takes us back to the public hearing. Item 14, we have a public hearing regarding California Voting Rights Act, evaluation of trustee area populations and final scenarios based on updated 2020 census data. And I believe Superintendent Sweezy is going to give us a brief overview.
Yes, thank you very much, President Girardi. Just to review a little bit where we've been as a district, we needed to take a look at our trustee areas because of the data in the most recent census. And when you look to change trustee areas, there are some considerations that you look at when you make those determinations. The first is that each area shall contain nearly equal number of inhabitants. So that's why we needed to do the change, because we did have a change in our population. We want to make sure that all of the proposals are drawn to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which all of our scenarios do, that we keep those trustee areas compact and contiguous as much as possible, and respect communities of interest, etc. So in looking at all of these different considerations, the board was presented with 4 different scenarios. We started talking about the trustee area process back in November of 2021. On November 23rd, we had our first public hearing, followed by a study session in December. We launched a section of our district website that had a trustee area input page and allowed people to get additional information. We did a lot of outreach into the community, met with district staff, met with parent advisories, shared the proposals that were out there, had some webinars in the evening, 6 different webinar periods over 2 days, and then have brought it back to these board meetings all the way through the month of February. And tonight, the board will be voting on one of these 4 scenarios. Just very briefly, we've attached the scenarios so they are available tonight. They're also still online. And as I said, there are 4 different scenarios, and each of the scenarios that are presented meet all of the requirements of the Federal Voting Rights Act, and they balance the population across all 5 of the trustee areas. There is some variance from one scenario to another in terms of how close the largest and smallest scenarios are, or trustee areas are, but all of the presented scenarios maintain at least one trustee area with a majority of Hispanic and Latino voters, and maintain trustee area number 5 as having our highest percentage of voting age African American members. So the demographics for each proposed scenario are also attached. They've been reviewed at our board meetings extensively, and again, they are available on our website. This is scenario number 2, and the associated statistics with population and ethnicity. Scenario number 3, and again, its population and ethnicity. And then finally, scenario number 4, and its population and ethnicity. All 4 of these scenarios meet the requirement and have been extensively publicly discussed. And so this evening, there will be a public hearing, and then later in the agenda, a vote by the board.
Thank you, Dr. Sweezy. The board now opens the public hearing on the adoption of evaluating trustee area populations under the 2020 census and considering and approving adjustments to trustee area boundaries. Have any written comments been received by the district as to the proposed resolution?
No, we have received no written comments about the proposed resolution.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to provide oral comments on the proposed resolution? Seeing that there are no comments, later in the agenda, the board will consider adopting resolution number 2021/2022-94, evaluating trustee area populations under the 2020 census and considering and approving adjustments to the trustee area boundaries. Since there are no oral comments, I will now close the public hearing. Next item will be 15B, the adoption of resolution number 2021/2022-84, authorizing remote teleconference meetings for the period March 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2022. May I get a motion to approve item 15B?
I made the motion.
Second?
Second?
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you. 15C, adoption of resolution number 2021/2022-94, evaluating trustee area populations under the 2020 census and considering and approving adjustments of the trustee area boundaries. Would anyone like to propose a scenario for adoption?
I move for approval of scenario number 1.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion, comments, questions? Everybody good? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes. Area 1, scenario 1. 15D, approval of increased budget for the Desert Hot Springs High School mini gym flooring, OE 12.13. May I get a motion to approve this item?
Move for approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes. 15E, approval of facility study session items and future projects. May I get a motion to approve?
I move for approval.
Thank you. How about a second?
Second?
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item 15F, approval of expulsion case 2021/2022-33, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusions of law, OE 11.
Move for approval?
We have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item 15G, approval of expulsion case 2021/2022-35, recommendation and findings of facts and conclusion of law, OE 11. Can we get a motion on that one? I have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item 16 is superintendent's consent items. We will be voting on items 16A through 16K, unless somebody would like one of those pulled for specific discussion. Nope. All right, can we get a motion on the superintendent's consent items? Number 16.
Move for approval?
We have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes also. Item 17 is the board's consent item. 17A, approval of meeting minutes for February 8th, 2022. May we get a motion?
Move for approval?
How about a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I have to get a coin.
Yeah.
So they can flip and decide who's going
Right.
to make the motion.
Got it.
All right, suggestions for future agendas. Anybody have a suggestion for a future agenda item?
I had some ideas that I brought up to the board. If we look ahead to the future, it might be more of a study session or some type of retreat that's based on CSBA professional development called Good Beginnings. And it's a workshop designed to help new superintendents, new board members, and it's a training for school board members. So that might be something coming up. We get in contact. I have the contact information with the School Board Association, and we design our own professional development as a board. And so that might be something as we look ahead past the election time and do a refresh and start the new school year. So that was one idea for an agenda or for a study session. It could be done in closed or open session, according to our CSBA representative, Denise Lopez. Also, I was interested in seeing us perhaps adopt a policy that when the district staff is given a increase in salary or COLA or whatever types of increases are given to the district staff, the school board would also be considered part of the staff and receive the same increase in pay. Even though, you know, we are public servants, we do, I don't know if the public knows this, we do get a small monthly stipend. So that might be something that we could consider putting into policy so we don't have to approve it each time. It just is a policy, and it happens when the district staff is given that bump in salary too.
I just have a question, like, does Ed Code, I thought, kind of governed the amount of money that is received by board members according to the enrollment? Am I correct?
I don't know the answer to your specific question, but knowing that this was going to be a future topic, we have reached out to our school attorney and asked them to provide us some information on board member compensation.
I think right now the compensation is $515 and, I don't know, some cents. That's what a board member gets in compensation.
Well, we'll study it. We'll take a look at it and see what everybody thinks. I'd also like to make a recommendation that we, I don't know, evaluate analyze how we use our student board members. I would really like them to have at least an honorary vote on different, what we vote on, get better participation from them. I'd like to see you guys, if time allows, attend our retreats with us, or at least a portion of our retreat, particularly when we're going through our policy development, because we're pretty unique here in this district, how we do policy monitoring. And I think it would really be a good education for future leaders to learn this. It's called governance by policy instead of by operations and things like that. So I'd like us to take a look on how we can better incorporate our student board members and really give them a good education on how to effectively govern.
I agree with that.
Okay.
That would be very nice. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Do they want to say anything tonight after the board meeting? I mean, do you have any comments, any additional comments?
For me, I just want to say is that right now, with all the meetings, it's very nice to hear very positive things and to finish it off with a good positive note. So for anyone who's watching the video or anything like that, just remember that there is hope for anyone, and that right now with the situation with COVID and everything, let's just continue with a big smile and finish it off with just positivity. So as for everyone to hear this, there is hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also just want to say that it's really nice that our school year is coming to an end and our schools are doing everything possible for students to enjoy, especially after coming back from this pandemic. And obviously it's continuing, but it's getting better, and it's really relieving to see things change in a good way. And it was very nice, your packets with the COVID test and the mask. So yeah, and thank you everyone, and I'm looking forward to be more involved in the board meeting, so thank you.
Great. Thank you both very much for being here tonight. All right, anything you guys wanted to brief on? Okay, so how about a motion to adjourn?
Wanted to revise the next meeting will be in Desert Hot Spring.
Yes, I believe so, right? It's gonna be at Desert Hot Springs?
This
On March 8th, our meeting will be at Desert Hot Springs.
okay.
Oh, I'm setting the next meeting. Yeah, I'm really on top of it today.
But that will be in
All
Desert
right.
Hot Spring.
Our next regular board meeting will be held on March 8th, 2022, in the auditorium at Desert Hot Springs High School, located at 65850 Pearson Boulevard, Desert Hot Springs, California. Now, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. We are now adjourned. Thank you, Sergio.